Shoot. Hi, I'm the Moorlander and this is Moorlander EDC. Now we're going to get straight into it today with this flashlight. What we are here to see is the Sofirn IF25a. This is a flashlight that was sent to me a while back and I've been testing it out, and you know, I've got to hold my hands in the air. Someone said, do you want to test out a flashlight? That's a flashlight. I've tested out a fair few flashlights. I know what I'm doing with this this gig. This isn't my first rodeo. And I got this, and for a good while I was just using it as a flashlight, the things that, you know, generally you expect from a flashlight, but this is so much more, and so much more to get your head around. In the past, I've talked about the simplicity of certain lights where you click it, it turns on, it's beautiful, you know, you have light. You wish the light not to be there, you click it, it turns off, there's no light again. This thing is a NASA supercomputer, generally speaking, compared to those sort of flashlights. So what we'll do is, I don't want to make this video too long because there's the potential for this to become a long piece of content, so I'll try and get into it. But what I'm going to do is we're going to have a look top down so that we can go through all of the functions and the features of this flashlight so that you can see exactly how they work and almost the level of just the amount of thought and the different things that you can change about this and the way that you can update it. And there's a lot in this, really. It's more like a smartphone than it is anything else. I'm trying to think of a good analogy for it. Maybe I'll get one by the time at the end of the video. So we'll have a look at that, and then we'll go to the night section so that you can see how each of the bits work. Normally I try to have the night kind of spliced in the video, but I think with this it would be much better to have them done separately and concentrate a little bit more time on how to use this, because when I first got it I was just, you know, on, off, how hard can that be? But when you drill down into the instructions, that's where the finesse and the myriad of features that you can get from this really come into its own. So I'll turn the camera around now. While I'm doing that, you know, if you enjoy this, please feel free to hit like. You know, it'd be awesome if you'd like to subscribe and share my content. That'd be amazing. But for now, let's get into this. Grab yourself a warm cup of tea or a cup of coffee and get ready to learn, because yeah, there's quite a bit to do with this. Okay, so here we have the IF25a. As we usually do, I'll go around the flashlight, the measurements, and you know, what it's made from, and the LEDs and stuff, and then we'll have a look at the Anduril UI and how that works, because that really is probably the most beneficial part from this content itself. Now, as a suggestion from a viewer from the North America, I always give this in millimeters, so I'll have my inch ruler here so you get a rough idea of what it is. But this measures from end to end. It's 106.4 millimeters, and at its thickest, which is the head end here, it comes in at 35 millimeters. Now it does slim down, hopefully, as you'll see here. So where the hand is, with the head being the larger, more bulbous area, it makes it easier to, when it's in your pocket, if you've got it the wrong way around, you know quite quickly where the switch is. The tail itself is flush, so if you need to put it against something for it to sit on, it will sit perfectly on there. I'm going to skip a bit, but normally I'd say, you know, is there anything that I'd change? And if I could, what I'd probably do is I'd put a magnet in here, purely because it's just useful to be able to put a flashlight onto things. And if there was a magnet in the end here, that might make it, or just add to the features. As I've already said, you know, this is incredibly feature rich, so if it's something that they could engineer into the tail cap, I think that would be quite useful. But it's all milled from what is it now? It's 6061 aluminium. And it's anodized, so you get this nice black look feel to it, which is really nice. As I mentioned, the tail cap is smaller than the head, and it's actually built into three sections. So your tail is completely separate, and then so is the module that the head is on is completely separate as well. So they are 3 units. Now I'm guessing this would probably add to the way that Sofirn make these in as far as modularity is concerned, if they were to swap around these separate parts with the different models that they have. When it comes out of the box, it comes with a 21700 400 milliamp hour battery already installed in it, but it does come with an extra adapter, which I've just left off here. Sorry, I'm just reached to get that, and I think this is, if memory suits, there for 18650 batteries. So if you do have a smaller one, it will take one of those, but just to make sure that it's not rattling around inside, then you have this little adapter that you can use to put that in. Because it's made from aluminium, it's nice and light. It comes in at 99 grams. So as far as EDC is concerned, I've had this in my pocket and I've been walking around with this in my pocket. It's on the bulkier side, however, it's still easily pocketable. It's nothing that you think is too huge that you couldn't carry with you on a daily basis. If you choose to purchase one of these and you're putting it in a backpack, or you're putting this in a truck or your car or something, it's great for that. It's a good EDC style size. The LEDs that it uses in here, there are a couple of versions. There is a bright white version, and then there is one that has more of a natural warm light to it. This is the bright white version, which is as far as the LED in here is concerned, there are 4 luminous SST20 LEDs in here, and that gives out 4K light. For the more warm light version, that gives out a 6500K light, but the internals are slightly different in there, or at least the modules on the end. As far as what else comes in the box when you get this, I mean, here's the box. It's a nice box as far as boxes go. You get your standard few extra seals you get a few extra rubbers for the seals. You get a little wrist lanyard, and you also get a USB Type-C. This does use USB Type-C, so a lot of those new chargers that you have can power this. You can plug this into a laptop to charge it. You can charge it in the car. Anything that you can charge something through USB Type-C, you can charge this with. It's actually great to see USB Type-C starting to come into more flashlights and torches. Just an extra point, and shout out to Sofirn for this, but as far as your seal is concerned on here, I mean, this is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It's one of the things that, flashlight enthusiasts do worry about, getting that seal to make sure that, you don't get crap in there. They've done an excellent job with this. The air seal on this is brilliant. You don't get a pop when it pops out, but trying to get it in is almost a little finickety, which is great, because that kind of gives you the confidence that nothing's going to get in. The last thing to point out on the outside really is you get some grooves that are cut into here which help with the heat sink. This does have a kick down, so when you're on turbo mode, it will kick down after a certain period of time. Now, that is dependent on your ambient temperature, which you can set using the Anduril UI on this. So there's quite a bit to look at as far as that Anduril UI is concerned. So when you get this, the one thing that I've missed that does come in the box is your instructions manual, and I don't, whatever you do, go flashlight, turn it on, turn it off, how hard can it be? Because you'll miss out a lot of the features that you get with this. And to make sure that you can all see these, I've even printed out a copy that I'm going to use here today, purely because there's just so much. There really is so much that you can do with this, and there's a lot of features. Hopefully, as you've noticed, here is the on button, which is on, off, and then it also takes you through whatever all of these things that you can configure on here, even a bat signal, you can do, and it's all through this one button, and it comes through a series of different clicks. The most simple of it all is click once, it will turn on, click again, it will turn off. If you keep your finger down on the button when you first turn it on, what it will do is it will reset to its lowest mode, just in case you're in an area that you don't want it to get too light. So I keep my finger on the button, and there is the lowest mode as far as lumens is concerned, which is 7 lumens. Now what it has is, it has 8 different steps to go from A, which is 7 lumens, all the way up to H, which is 3,800 lumens, which again, we'll have a look at the second. But then if you want to go through those different stages, you hold your finger down, similarly how you do with an O light. You keep your finger down or thumb down on it, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you against my hand here just to see if it works, and then later we'll have a look at how this works in the dark. So keep your finger down on it and you'll see that it gradually gets lighter. And then when it gets to its highest, which is G, which is 2000 lumens, if you then keep your thumb down on it again, it will go all the way back down. Hopefully you can see there, down to 7 lumens. So in this mode, this is smooth mode. So as you can see, as I'm holding this down to go all the way up to the top, there's actually 150 different steps that it smoothly transitions between to get from A to G. So some people might like that, but if you're the type of person that likes it where you get those specific steps where you will actually be able to see A, B, C, D, E, F, G from 7 to 2000, once it's on, and it needs to be on to do it, if you triple click 1, 2, 3, you'll see, you see that then it just did a quick little blink. So if I turn this off now and then turn it on by putting it onto its lowest setting, which is keeping my thumb on it, you'll be able to see there, this is on the lowest setting. It goes up and then I'm keeping my, oh sorry, I've took my finger off it, so it's gone back down again. So if I keep the finger on this, you'll be able to see, instead of going up smoothly, it then goes through those different steps where you get jumps between each of the different steps. Now, this is why I'm going to direct you to this, mainly because, so you can see, so as far as on and off is concerned, you click the button, it turns on, it turns off. Then you have the lowest setting, which is 7 lumens, and then it goes up to the highest setting. But one thing that you need to remember with this, and again, there's so much to remember with this, is you have what you call a ceiling and a floor. So what you can do is you can set what your ceiling is, and your ceiling is the highest point or the highest brightness in lumens that it will get to. So at the moment, by default, the highest that this is on, that it will go all the way up to, is 2000 lumens. But you can set that, and again, we'll have a look at this when we have a look at these configurations here, these ramp settings. So you can set what you want the highest to be. Now, actually, let me put it back on. Sorry about that. So I clicked too many buttons. There really is a lot to remember with this, and that's one of the things that you need to, I suppose, get my head around and get everybody's head around. So when it's on, if you do a triple click, that's how you go from the smooth to the stepped, and that's what I was trying to put it back to. But what these floors and ceilings is, so if when you put it on to its lowest setting, you don't actually want it to come on at 7, you can decide that the floor, you want it to come in at, I don't know, 50 lumens to be the lowest. And then the ceiling, instead of going all the way up to 2000 before you then have to then get it onto the turbo mode, maybe you want that to be 1500 to be its highest. So that's what you can set with these ceilings and floors to give you more finesse on exactly how you want to use your flashlight. Now I've put it back onto onto smooth mode. So I'm going to put this up to its highest, which at the moment is 2000 lumens. To get it to go up to turbo mode, you then have to do a double click while it's in its high setting. So 1, 2, and there you go. You get that then bump up to 3800 lumens. Now, there is a memory on this. So if I turn it off, turn it back on again, it will remember where it got to. Turn it off, turn it back on again. You know, it will always do that. Whether it is in smooth mode or whether it is in step mode, it will always remember the setting that it was on, unless you keep your finger down on it. Oh, sorry. You turn it off, you keep your finger down on it, and then it will reset to its lowest mode, depending on whether you've kept it on its family, the factory settings, or whether you've changed whatever the lowest mode would be if you've altered what the floor setting would be on this flashlight. Now after this, you then have, that's the main use for the light. You know, it's a flashlight, you turn it on, you turn it off, you can then see what the different different bits are. Now one of the things that I didn't cover is 1, 2, 3. Is as far as the lumens are concerned, what the steps up are. So it goes from A is 7, B is 40, C is 110, D is 260, E is 600, F is 1200, G is 2000, and then you've got, if you want it into turbo, you then double click it when it's on, and that will put that into 3800. So next bit really is to look at these extra bits that you can do. The first one, as far as the actual customization of the flashlight is concerned, there are certain things that you can change in here from the ramp system, or at least where the ceiling and the floor is. You can change this, which is part of the ramp configuration settings. You then also have some thermal settings. So again, down to the intelligence of this torch, you can change what your ambient temperature is. There is a kick down in the burst mode in the highest setting, the highest setting. Now, if you were in the middle of the Namibia desert where it's very hot, even at night when it's dark, then when it gets to its hottest, which it is, you know, it's reasonably warm now, but by telling this what the ambient temperature around this light is, it will mean that it will understand more about when it needs to start to kick down. It's hot around it, it should kick down earlier. If you're using this in the north of Sweden in the middle of winter where it's minus 40, minus 50, the ambient temperature around this will allow it to keep warm with the heat sinks here at the top. So you can set the ambient temperature of this so that when you've got it in turbo mode, it will take that into account and you'll get more light or longer light from the burst mode. And this is all done through the blinkies settings. Now, I'm going to kind of go over this quickly, or maybe even not touch on it that much, mainly because as far as this is concerned, I'm happy with the factory settings. But what you do is 1, 2, 3, and it starts these different flashes. So the first flashes that it starts to give you is the battery check. So on the flashing and the light that comes from this, the first will give you the tens number, and the second sets of flashing lights will give you the units numbers. Will tell you roughly how much time there is extra in this in the flashlight. So it does give you that information. Now when you're actually using the blinkers, so if I turn that on again, 1, 2, 3, here's the blinkers. So you go through these different settings by then double clicking it. So at the moment it's in battery check, double click, it's now in sunset, double click, it's now in beacon mode. In the beacon mode, you can decide where you have the flash settings in your strobe. You can decide the how many pulses you get between each of them. You can see here beacon equals N per flash. So the amount of times that you click on this depends on how many times it flashes in between each of the dashes, I suppose. And then you've got the thermal settings where you can then change the ambient temperature around it. Now, as I say, I've not really changed that much, mainly because I'm happy with the way that it's come to me from the factory. And also, you know, I'm just a bit worried about doing something that I won't be able to undo. I think a lot of this stuff, if needs be, you can't really break it. There will be a way of resetting it. So that's a triple click. You then have a lockout. So if you are concerned that you might turn this in your pocket, so 1, 2, 3, 4, you get a quick flash, and this is now in lockout mode, and you'll be able to see that the light here on the button is on constantly. So if you turn this on, it just won't come on. It will only come on in the lowest setting as such, but as soon as you take your finger off it, it turns off. And this, you know, that's it. You keep your finger on it, it stays on. There is a second one on here. If I double tap it, can you see that this is... So there's a single tap and there's a double tap. Now, I know that this at the moment is on stepped because the floor on stepped is actually brighter than it is on my smooth mode. So what you can do is you can actually get a quick access to both of those modes depending on, you know, the situation that you're in and whether you need them or not. So 1, 2, 3, 4, it gets myself out of that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it on just so that you can see it. So there it's on. And now this will go through the stepped modes. See that? So 1, 2, 3, that will then put it back into smooth. If I put this now back into lockout mode, 1, 2, 3, 4, you'll be able to see that it's on the lowest setting, and this is the floor for the smooth setting, and I double click it, and that is the floor for the stepped setting. So there you go. So that's the lockout mode. You also have a momentary mode. So, and this is 5 clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is very similar to lockout, where if you need to use this for signaling, you need to use this for Morse code or anything like that, then you know you can do this. But obviously, if you're using this for Morse code, you're probably going to have to click it 5 times. So the only way, I mean, if I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all it's going to do is turn it on 5 times. So to get out of it, the only way to get out of it is to disconnect the battery. And then that will take it out of momentary mode and put it back into normal mode. Hopefully you saw the little flash there. So now you can see it's in normal mode and it is smooth mode. So that's the momentary mode that you can use for signaling. The next mode is Muggle mode. So imagine we're all Harry Potter and we know what the deal is when it comes to flashlights. You know, you turn it on, you turn it off. There's Harry Potter mode. But there might be a situation where you need to pass this to a lower Muggle. Let's call those children for now. And you want to give it to a child and you want to make sure that they're not going to be able to blind themselves with this. So with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, get a quick flash. This is now in Muggle mode. So you can turn it on, you can turn it off, you can go up and you can go down through the settings, but it doesn't go as high as the 2000 lumens, so that if children are flashing this in each other's eyes, then they'll be able to, you know, not undo that, or they'll be able to harm themselves. But what it also means is that they also can't go into blinky mode, they can't go into lockout, they can't do anything with that unless it's turned off, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it then puts it back into Harry Potter mode, so we flashlight wizards who know what we're doing can do what we want to do with it. There you go. So the next mode, we then have strobes. If you do a triple click, 1, 2, 3, that takes you into blinkies, but to get into strobe, it's a triple click, but it's click, click, and keep your finger down on it for that last click. So 1, 2, 3, and you'll get that blink from it. So to cycle through the different modes that are on here, you do a double click to cycle through each of the modes. Now this mode here is candle mode. So what it does is, if I have this here, hopefully you can see, that's not my hand shaking, I'll put it down. It flickers, it gives just an ambient flicker. So if you put this in the corner of your room, this ambient flicker just, you know, it just gives you a candle-like flicker in the background, which is really nice. Then if we double click it, it then puts you into bike mode. So with bike mode, what this does is it's very similar to a bike on a light on the bike. So you get a constant light, and then it then flashes or flickers as it goes through every, like a pulse. Double click again, you then got party mode. So if you want to have a bit of a rave, you can do that. Double click again, it then puts it into tactical mode. Now tactical mode is super bright. It's pretty much very similar to party mode, but rather than being not so offensive, tactical strobe mode is incredibly offensive to the eyes. It's very light. Double click again, and this is my favorite mode. This is lightning thunderstorm mode. So it looks like it's off, but what it's actually doing is just simulating random bursts at random lumens to give you a very eerie lightning effect. And I love it. Sometimes I just want to sit there and watch it do that. To turn any of this off, you click it, turns it off, click it again, turn it back on, and it puts it back into your normal mode. So 1, 2, 3 puts us back into the strobes. As mentioned, you double click to go through each of the strobes, but if you want to change the intensity of each of those, so at the moment we're in lightning, if I keep my finger down on it, it will now increase what is the lowest lightning effect and what is also the highest lightning effect. If I double click, put it into candle mode, same with this, hopefully you'll be able to see that that gets lighter, but there's still that nice little flicker that you get when it's in candle mode. Double click, we're in bike mode, keep your finger down on it, increases the intensity of the flash and also the constant light. Double click again, puts it into party mode. Now this again comes down to, this is probably looking horrible on the camera, but if I keep my finger down on it, it increases the speed at which the strobe goes, almost to the point where it's hard to pick up with your eye that it's actually still strobing. Keep my finger on it, down again, and it goes all the way down. Double click into the tactical mode. Again, I'll try and do this as quickly as possible, but you can see it's almost not visible that it's flickering. Bring it back down again, and you'll be able to see that comes to more of a strobe. And again, you know, to turn it off, you click it once, it turns off, and then just goes back into the normal torch mode. There's so much to remember with this. This is really useful. This is a great cheat sheet as far as the Anduril UI is concerned. But again, you know, it's a series of clicks from 1 to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there's also a 7th click. I'd say the last little bit to point out is the clicks on here, and at least this light. So at the moment you'll be able to see that it's flashing, but some people may worry that this will take out some of the battery, which it will. At the moment this flashing is actually contextual, so whatever you're doing with the light, if this is strobing, this will strobe. If this is in candle mode, this will have that eerie candle flicker. If it's in lightning mode, you'll get the same lightning effects that you get from here. If you want to turn it off, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and it turns off. If you do want it there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it's now in low mode. Hopefully you might just be able to see that. If you want it so it's a little bit more clear, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then it's on. Now this is constantly on, so if you were to leave that, it would just sit there with that light on, well, and gradually wear down your battery. Personally, 7, I quite like this mode, mainly because I like the fact that it's contextual and does what is actually happening in here. Now, I appreciate this has got quite long, and as I say, there is so much to talk about this. So what I'll do now is we'll have a look at what it's like. I'll go out into the woods so that you can see more from this, and I'll put some annotations on the screen so that you can see each of the different modes and, you know, what they look like. Still trying to think on that analogy, but I think really the mobile phone analogy is possibly the easiest to go with. Here you've got from Olight, it's the i3T, you know, you turn it on, it works. If I was to compare this to a mobile phone, it would be this. That's not to say that this isn't a perfectly functioning mobile phone, but as far as feature-wise is concerned, they're very similar. Whereas, I thought I was going to drop that then. When you're talking about the IF25a, you're talking about modern day mobile phones. This is feature rich, almost to the point where there's just so much in there. There really is. Now, I say I got this and I was like, oh, mobile phone. It's a flashlight or a torch here in England. How hard can this be? But then you get stuck in and you can find that there's so much for this, which it brings me on to thinking, you know, who is this for? It's kind of not for everyone, but then at the same time, equally for everybody. If you want a torch that turns on and turns off, you've got that. If you're a connoisseur of the flashlight, then there's plenty in this that you can get those extra features. Wherever, if you're that OCD person, you know, I want a flashlight that does this, that, and the other, and, you know, I can fly to Mars with it, then you've got that in this as well. At the moment, this is a reasonably priced flashlight. I think today, I was looking earlier, obviously this is all at the time that this was recorded, which is the 22nd of June 2021. This was on sale for $33 or $35. It was around that much, whereas normally it's on there for $70. So it's what you class as a budget, but it's because of the Anduril technology and all of that sort of stuff in here. This is to the higher end of budget as far as the price is concerned, but the actual features of this really is next level high, crazy, absolutely crazy. I'm glad I had this, and I'm glad that Sofirn contacted me and asked if I'd like to test this out, mainly because of my how hard can a flashlight be kind of mentality when I first got it. It's good to push yourself, it's good to learn new things, and it's certainly opened my eyes to what is possible from a flashlight with all of these crazy different features that you have there, all based around this Anduril. I've got Anduril stuck in my head. Anduril UI and how it all works. I'm very impressed. So massive thank you to Sofirn for sending this my way. Through the conversation that I had with them, I was under no sort of obligation to review this fairly, or no, it would be fairly, but whether it be favourably or unfavourably, it's a great flashlight. If you are into flashlights, this is next level connoisseur, I feel, as far as flashlights is concerned. So thank you for that. I'll leave some links in the description below. There'll also be some of my social media links there as well. If you'd like to subscribe, share, you know the deal. But for now, stay safe, stay Moorlander, and stay EDC.